Hunting for me, I think, is a way to connect to a landscape and to connect to a place, or to get to know something to a point where it feels like an old friend. And hunting is the sort of mechanism in the story that brings you there.
I'd say one of the biggest reasons why I do this is because it's more of a passion than anything, and I felt it since I was very young. I immensely appreciate the outdoors and everything that's involved in it, the animals, the conservation, the beauty. It all resonates with me very, very deeply. I know a lot of people grew up hunting. It's more of a family thing. They do it because, you know, it's the time of year to do it. For me, this is a year-round thing. I'm constantly outside. I'm probably outside 90% of the year. Even in the winter time, in the summer, in the spring, fall, like I'm always out there just finding animals, learning animals' behavior, like exploring new territory I've never been. It's such an exciting thing for me, and something I just feel so deeply in my core that it's really almost, I wouldn't say really an obsession, but just my way of life personally, and that's how I feel it.
Getting into hunting when I was growing up, my dad got me into shooting more so, and then that just led over into hunting. Then I pretty much just took it by myself a lot. I was out by myself a lot. He was super busy doing other things, and I just didn't want to wait for anybody to go do it. So a lot of self-taught, like learned a lot of hard lessons. Like growing up on the ranch, we just had like whitetail, mule deer, turkeys, antelope. So I had like a pretty good place to just go out and do a ton of trial and error. And that's basically what it was. It's just trial and error and learning like how the deer move and what they like, what they don't like in the certain times of year. And it was really just like time on the ground.
I was an adult onset hunter. I grew up a kid of ranchers. Always had conservation as like a really strong line. I was never a hunter. My dad would go out and, you know, kill a cow elk for food, but never really went along. And then as an adult, I picked up a bow and found how much I loved the discipline of archery, and then that led me to rifle hunting. What it was in that is that when I hunted and when I took the life of an animal, I connected with feeling like I needed to give something back.
Whoa! What's he doing?
Now if my radio comes on all of a sudden and I was like hard bumping Taylor Swift or something, don't judge. It was a 5-hour drive. I always think like the first day is kind of like the day that you have to like get your boots on the ground, but it always feels like you're a little later than you ever want to be, and you're never certain about where you're going, and it's like really hard in a place that you don't know to get there at first light and like feel like you're set down. I'm always like late for that. But then in like the colder weather, you can find them really easy because they're up and they're moving and they're rutting, so they're maybe not the most smart. But that also like presents all sorts of issues with management, because sometimes like rut hunting can artificially inflate hunters' success because the deer are so easy to see. Wow, I like this. Let's go for a walk.
You know, a lot of what method I use to travel depends a lot on the terrain. That, and it depends like a lot on the weather and just like access and this and that. When I have roads and it's a really open country like this, I do find it a lot easier to glass, obviously more country quicker, hence road hunting, which is very popular, especially in the West. I just think for this country in particular, it's definitely a lot more effective traveling in a vehicle if you can in this open country versus walking it. You could spend all day hiking a couple miles in this open country versus, you know, 20 plus miles in a day in a vehicle, and kind of get rid of certain areas that literally have no sign, this and that, and just cover way more ground and kind of be more selective in the later down the hunt or whatever. From a very young age, I've always had a very strong desire to hunt, but my family never did, and so something that kind of came later in my life, but it's always been, you know, something on the back of my head I've always wanted to try and do.
The best part about glassing is just getting to sit and watch the animals. Makes you feel a little closer than you are, so it's always really fun. Kind of hang out. Kind of sucks when it's really cold and windy, but glassing is pretty awesome. I like it. Yeah, he's cool. He's bedded just to the left of the does. Yeah, he's pretty cool. He has a 3x3. And his main beams go like, they curl right up. It's really awesome. There's really nothing we can do except watch them. Because they're on a little bit of private. Literally surrounded by public. They're just on that corner, like always. Not unless something spooks them over. I don't think they're gonna move, but.
Going into the hunting industry just came really, I didn't really mean to. It just kind of happened with writing. I would do gear articles and write for a couple of websites that just happened to give me the opportunity. And then it also came from filming, so doing some photography stuff, mostly filming though, videography, and just going with friends or filming myself. I did that a ton, and that was mostly just because I liked the creative side of it and also just to document my own times in the field.
It's pretty cold. The sun is really warming things up though. We found a buck last night and we're just trying to turn him up again. And we don't think they could have gone far, but thus far they haven't been easy to find. We got a buck. He looks pretty tall. About to his ears, width-wise. He's just nosing some does around, so just watch him for a minute, see where they go to bed up, and maybe try to just move and get a better look. They're 1,500 yards away currently.
So it looks like there's a carcass down there. A bunch of magpies flew out. It's a beautiful doe, so somebody had a good day. I think I wish I would have taken more neck meat. Feels like a good place to have your last breaths, I think. I'm the Government Affairs Director for the Wyoming Wildlife Federation, and that's sort of a glorified version of saying I'm a lobbyist, and I work with a lot of legislative, both national legislature and statewide legislatures on hunting and angling and wildlife issues. Oh, there's a lot of places for deer to hide in here. It sort of feels like we need to find a high point and sit and look for a while. No, it's just a landscape I haven't been in before, and I think hunting makes you look at it in a different way. It makes you take your time and enjoy it, and you're not just hard charging through it to get somewhere. Trying to get to there. Oh. Yeah. It feels like there should be more tracks in here, but we're very lucky here in the Rocky Mountains to have large swaths of public land or little patches of public land, but it's a big amount of land. Some states don't have as much, and it's not that there's not hunting opportunity and you can't get out, but it's a lot harder. And you either have to work with permission or figure out how to sort of thread the needle between private land pieces. And it makes it a lot harder for, I think, everybody to have an opportunity where public land sort of allows if you're willing, you can. We often talk about the merits of public land, and I think that's really, really important because it's absolutely necessary. But we also with that comes the multiple use management, and that means that it's not just everybody has an opportunity, it's everything has an opportunity. And it doesn't mean everything everywhere, but we have to work out natural resources, and whether it's oil and gas or renewable energies or grazing allotments or mining situations, that is also happening on public land, and we have to remember how to balance that with the ones that don't have voices, which are mule deer and elk and everything else. And it seems like sometimes we do a pretty poor job remembering four-legged others. There's a doe sitting, maybe 350 little further yards out while looking over at us, which is a good sign, because if there's a doe, there's probably a buck. I think I'm just gonna sit here with her for a bit.
There could be all those does in there and that big buck. Let the little one just push him around like he is. If he has another doe kind of off by herself and locked up over there, maybe not. The key to this time of year is does, and we know where some are, so we'll just keep an eye on them and see if a new buck shows up.
We just got back from a big long loop up on public land over here, came across the road and just sat and watched maybe 6 whitetail bucks, a couple does rutting just everywhere. And where we went was public land, BLM, little patches here, and to come across and just have all of these animals on private, certainly it's frustrating as a hunter, but on the other side of it, it's this is sort of how we have balance, and they get a break over here. As much as I wish I could walk over there. There's a really healthy buck over there, and big-bodied, and it takes both to have good deer herds. You have to have the public and you have to have the private, because you gotta learn how to work together here.
We've been driving around all darn day, and we've been seeing quite a few deer, quite a few bucks, but they've either been a little too young and too small or on private.
I think when we're out and about and it really sucks, whether that's not finding any deer or the weather is really harsh, what keeps me going is it can all change in about 20 seconds. Yeah, first Montana buck. It was a whitetail. I haven't shot a whitetail in a long time. Some of the hunting stuff and being consistently successful, it's really hard to explain. It's either you have it or you don't. And I think some of it comes with experience, and some of it is just how you are. First Montana buck, first whitetail in a long time. Just baby giant, If you really want to come into the outdoors and come hunting and make it a big part of your life, you just got to make time for it. I've always had my hands in like a lot of different things. So I'm always just like pretty busy, and it's always very like go, go, go lifestyle. It's one thing after the other. Getting to be even like on a hunt for a week and we don't have service. It's nice to be able to just breathe.
Couldn't get anything on the public for long enough to shoot, but lots of deer. And then that activity like died down pretty quick right around 9. So I'm out here glassing a big canyon right now to see if I can find anything bedded. It's a pretty good canyon, and there's a few fresh deer tracks coming in and out of here, so there might be something in here. Give it a really good glass, then maybe probably go on the other side and do the same thing, and just kind of do that till this evening, till those deer start getting up and moving again. So, but it was a fun morning for sure.
When I started hunting, you know, I had an incredible mentor, and I was very lucky because of that. But like many people, he was a man, and we did do things a little differently. And the stronger into hunting I got, the more I started looking for somebody who spoke about hunting or thought about hunting in a little bit different of a way. But I was just looking for a mentor that was a woman. I was about 6 months into working for Wyoming Wildlife Federation at the time, and got contacted by the National Wildlife Federation and asked if I wanted to help lead a diversity initiative with them that was based on getting more women into the conservation and hunting sphere.
There's a lot less deer this morning, but could be because people have been driving. Could be we're just in the wrong spot. Maybe it was just cold enough that they're just now getting up, so they're here. We're just not seeing them. I feel like we've been in every kind of country.
And it felt like somebody had put in my lap something was like, well, if I don't find a mentor, why don't I create them or give somebody else the opportunity to be that for someone? And so 10 women got together, and Artemis was completely born of like the brainchild of a bunch of women that had really wanted to see more women out there leading and doing conservation work and talking about wildlife and hunting and feeling confident in who they are. Because I think at the very base of hunting, you know, something that was a huge wake up for me, like I didn't expect to feel after I'd taken my first animal, was confidence.
Some thick draws. There's a buck down in this draw. He's actually kind of a nice bodied 2-point.
I just didn't get an impression that like we bumped him. I think he's just running him, and these does are running.
Alright, so we were in that big canyon over there, glassing for quite a while, just kind of talking, and all of a sudden I spot some deer way out there, a few ridges over, so we just drove around really quick. We're hoping they're in the same spot. We're probably gonna get over this hill. I'll be about 600 yards, and there's a little knob I can probably get to. I might have a under 400 yard shot. So, yep, he's belly up. Awesome.
Nice work.
So awesome. Pretty 4-point. Just with enough light left to get some pictures. Freaking mature deer. This is what I was freaking hunting for. Other people are shooting
Gosh, this thing's so pretty. What a beautiful, beautiful animal. So we got this healed one, then we got this lip rip. Look at that. Then he got poked in his eyeball. And then look at all these healed scars on this side. There's a big one right here. This guy was a fighter. Oh, such a gorgeous animal. Last evening, did a bit of fun, easy hiking today until we saw this guy. Game on. Something I would definitely recommend for younger people who aren't really surrounded by hunting and want to get into it is you really have to be mentally strong and take that step, even though there's a lot of people are worried or scared, not sure where to go. You got to have the confidence. You have to take that first step.
This buck just sitting on this private land was so cool and so sure of himself and sure of his continued existence because of the private land. But he was very confident in his safety. That would be the whitetail that it would take to walk in front of me on public. A total wildlife safari this morning. A little private land tour of big deer that we can't touch.
We have a big 2-point bedded just over this butte here. He's about 250-ish out. And boy, we'll see. He's bedded pretty deep, but he's a cool looking deer. And we'll see what happens. Wind is good. And yeah, I just gotta get my heart rate to calm down. Ouch.
Sometimes he'll stand up and look, and sometimes he'll just come out of the bed, and I think he's old and big enough. It makes sense that he just comes out like a scalded dog. That's why he's lived this long. That's the deer I was looking for. That's so cool. Everything but the shot. Dang.
I think like after an experience like that, like everything but the shot was perfect, and didn't get a shot because he stood up and ran it. If this is all I leave this hunt with, like, I'm gonna be really happy. That was so cool. You know, there's like an element of like, when they outsmart you and they live, it's just nothing but respect, and I don't know, there's also a little joy in that, I think, too. You know, you always feel it when you shoot, and sometimes there's a relief when you don't, and you know, I would have shot had I had a shot on this guy, but I didn't, so I'm just gonna be happy about it. He was pretty, very pretty.
She sat at the back, and they said she was shy. She led from the front, and they hated her pride. They asked her advice and then questioned her guidance. They branded her loud. They were shocked by her silence. When she shared no ambition, they said it was sad, so she told them her dreams, and they said she was mad. They told her they'd listen, then covered their ears, and gave her a hug while they laughed at her fears. And she listened to all of it, thinking she should be the girl they told her to be, best as she could. But one day she asked what was best for herself, instead of trying to please everyone else. So she walked to the forest and stood with the trees. She heard the wind whisper and dance with the leaves, and she spoke to the willow, the elm, and the pine, and she told them what she'd been told time after time. She told them she never felt nearly enough. She was either too little or far, far too much. Too loud or too quiet, too fierce or too weak, too wise or too foolish, too bold or too meek. Then she found a small clearing surrounded by firs, and she stopped and she heard what the trees said to her. And she sat there for hours, not wanting to leave, for the forest said nothing. It just let her breathe.